Strange days are here again. Now I'm dancing with my imaginary friends. In my head, they say what I need to hear, whispering lies that make my problems disappear. Then I get paranoid. Oh no, I let them in again. Should I play along? Why yes, let's play a game of pretend. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Time to let my crazy show. They feed on fears, they twist my thoughts. Act like kings, but they're just bots. Truth is, they just fucking bore me. Now it's my turn, I'll flip the game. Step inside, let's play insane. Let's get this psycho circus started. You're at my party, dearly departed. I can make this fun, do you wanna run? I'm pulling out the big one, just for fun. Pop the champagne and run, bitch, run! Strange days are back again. Still dancing with my imaginary friends. In my head they say what I need to hear on repeat till the silence disappears. 1, 2, 3, now you know. This is how I let my crazy show. They prey on doubt, my insecurities. Play pretend like they've got authority. But truth is, they just fucking bore me.
I was muted. Sorry. Let me start this over. I just left Benny's chat. I don't know if Benny's still live. They had a little bit of an issue with some of the things I was asking in chat. I guess you're not allowed to ask people that are making accusations questions, like Ziggy. Ziggy seems to be very protective in this community, doesn't she? I don't know why anybody believes a fucking word she says, considering she married a neighbor and suspect and brought him into her home, and that this man has been charged and thrown in jail for shooting pew-pews around his own children. I have a problem with that. It shows Fred's character. I also have a problem with the fact that Ernie Shaw's aunt, Brenda, lived in the same neighborhood as the people Fred and Ziggy speak about. I also have a problem with the fact they brought Kathy Gordon out here and Karen Elliott is accusing her of stealing and clothes falling out of the ceiling. We spoke about all that shit the other day, right? They're bringing up the pool again with Pam Sanchez. Benny's over there saying Pam Sanchez is extremely credible. No. You see, cracking cases, and because I came live with no proof tonight, I didn't look at it. When they put the photo out that Pamela Sanchez, the woman who took in money for the Wells, drove the hardware stores for the Wells, when Dawn said that the materials were donated through Tucker, changed Dawn Wells' Facebook pages, deleted Facebook pages, and I do have the screenshots to prove this. I'm going to have to dig them out because Pamela Sanchez and I used to fight really hard in the Facebook groups. I find issue with her. When she came out and put Jody Sue's son out, what she did was put a picture of a man in his 50s, 60s, or 70s. He was an older man. It was not the image of a 19-year-old boy at the time. So now that they're going to go over there and start this shit again, it's kind of disgusting. It's old. We've been there and done that. It's bringing up old shit, and I'm not out here simping for Jody Sue because I do still believe Jody Sue knows something. I do still believe Jody Sue protects Andy. If not Andy, maybe somebody in Andy's family. It'll all come out sooner or later. But here's what we're going to do tonight. I feel that because Benny is speaking about Jody Sue's accounts of the screen and the position of where her children were placed and things of that nature, I think it's really important that we go back and we listen to the first set of videos Jody Sue put out so that we can get a better understanding of what Benny's putting out. Do I think the screen is important? If there was a screen, yes. Why is Lawson discredited? I don't know. However, I do not believe Jody Sue heard the scream from the direction that Benny and Tiffany are putting out right now. It is my belief they heard them from the direction of Fred Hill's home. After listening and hear about the trial that Jody Sue went and looked under, first she put her feet in the water, walked down the creek. Well, look at the map. You're going to see where under the trowel was. It's at Simpson Loop. It's not at Beach Creek, where Benny's putting out that Jody heard the scream all the way across Beach Creek. Distraction, Benny. I don't know why, but distraction. And I don't know what order these are in. We're going to start from this one right here. And we're going to listen all the way through. Some may be repeats, some may not. I may be missing pieces, but it's going to give you a bigger picture. Jody Sue also has these posted on her page. However, she has removed them and made doubles of them to make them look like something they're not. I'm curious as to why she's done that. Let's also keep in mind that during this time, Jody Sue left a video out that she did not share. And that these were first placed on Facebook and with True Crime Commentary, which I have another video of this where True Crime Commentary put a compel of them together. So we can listen to it twice for all I give a fuck. Narrative pushing is something. Am I completely freeing Jody Sue of anything? No, I don't think Jody Sue took something. I do think Jody Sue knows more than she's letting on. I also believe she doesn't tell us everything because some things are meant for Ellie. She is a neighbor. She knows the Wells. She knows the area. Is she shady? Yes. Has she been caught in drug dealing? Yes. So is Andy. I find it funny why Andy switches the story according to Benny but he was the one caught with one single kill. And then they went into the house because that's not what Andy Bernard said in my chat. And we can go back and look at my chats one day too. Now, whenever, let me know. However, let's go ahead. I'm going to come down, and tonight what we're going to do is just listen to all Jody's. I did want to listen to Jose. We'll see how far we get. Let's make it so it's not so hard.
And also looking at the Remax and there's so many, especially out of state advertisements, because they're getting more money out of those in Hawkins right now, especially with people not even being able to view the properties in person. And yeah, so what had been done, I mean, it was almost laughable. We knew immediately there was going to be problems, because what had been done was when they came to take the photos, and those, if you live in a wooded area, you kind of know there's a sweet spot, especially for realty photos, that you can kind of make things blend. It goes, between like fall and winter, fall and winter, or you take them in winter, like dead end, and then go into spring. It's, puffery for real estate. It's kind of what they do. You expect some of this, but this was pretty blatant and some of the craziest I'd ever seen. Some of the most misleading. And what they had done was, I think there was like a series of, on some sites it was like 34, others had 44 pictures. They had absolutely trespassed and come all the way up to like where the house, cabin, things like that were. Definitely not on the piece that was, up for sale. And had made it look like, to anybody that didn't know the area or couldn't come look in person, and I don't know, they'd advertised it as rolling hills, and it definitely is not. Like, but they had made Candace's and this property, and because, and the road in between us kind of blends, right? So you can't even tell it's there in the photos. But they had made it look like it was one big continuous looking thing. Couldn't even tell the road was there. And you, in some of the photos, can see Candace's basement door just perfectly. So, anyway, they were definitely trespassing. Most of the photos weren't even of the property that was up for sale. What that piece actually is like the crust of the bank. I think the biggest spot on it really to build is like 60, 70 feet. And it is over a cliff. I don't know how you would manage it, even with unrestricted, just because of, waterways and ditches and the slope and the grade of the land, because even unrestricted doesn't mean, right? And then most of the actual physical property is like,
so the unrestricted, there's a lot of entertainment moving in. People like the people that come from Utah that was putting in that ranch that I covered many times. It's hard to cover because they have very big in-depth. They're a very secretive ranch. They offer vacationers to come there. There's no children free. Really watch. But this company from Utah had come in, and they have you're not allowed to share their website, which is odd. You're not allowed to share photos from their website, which is odd because most people would want to advertise for a hotel. They're secretive. They don't allow children at this place. I've had a phone conversation with them. They knew it was recorded. I'll bring that back out. But right now we're listening to Jody Sue. I think Benny's correct when he states that they chase dogs out of it. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe Dobbs was cleared. We haven't heard anything about Dobbs. I've spoken to Dobbs' son in some Facebook platform, maybe even Messenger at one time. I can't prove it, but Facebook was taken. But to me, he seemed like an intelligent man. I do still have questions about Dobbs, though, because there's some weird recording that has floated around the YouTube streets where people said it was his wife. And she was talking about child trafficking. And she made some pretty heavy accusations. I would like to know where this video originated from. I'm going to look for that as well. However, let's continue with Jody. I'm going to eat my ice cream. It's peanut butter. It's Hershey's. The wonders of living in Pennsylvania, we get the best of Hershey.
The whole 2 acres of it almost is like this under where the barn sits for this property. You can't really access it. It's like the creek bed and straight up. I mean, you can't do anything with it. You couldn't build on it. You couldn't, even if you wanted to. It's basically just a cliff and it goes straight down to the creek. It was definitely, and they sold it as is, where is. It was the whole thing. So, anyway, in those days that it was for sale, just a few, and I think we had finally, and they had advertised all kinds of crazy stuff that wasn't actually available there, like high-speed internet and a different power company. I mean, it was wild. So,
in my opinion, the power company is important since they have to come fix the telephone pole that Karen Elliott states Julie witnessed the telephone pole guide wire getting knocked down or heard it or something. And that she had to show the power company where to go. She said that in one of my chats. Go back about a year, start watching. Karen Elliott was in my chats a lot about a year ago. She gave a lot of information in detail. I just don't have the time in life to go back and look at it all and remember it all, unless it's something I'm covering at the moment. But there was more than Fred Hill and that family on the road that day.
Anyway, definitely wasn't worth what it was going for. I mean, it was, somebody was getting robbed. That's the truth. But, so we knew when it sold, there was going to be issues, yeah.
This part always bothered me. We knew when it sold, we knew there was going to be issues. I want you people to keep in mind that there has been 2 crimes on this land in the past, both involving PQs, both involving times when people went to jail or were unalived. Dogs is land. Again, we'll go through it another day. Or go back and watch my lives, everybody knows.
For even before the sale finalized, until it finalized, there were still people coming and going to look at it. People coming through there, and there have been a lot of that lately, especially in the past year. For other properties up for sale, people looking because of the unrestricted land in Hawkins itself. So, and there was many properties up for sale. So there was all kinds of out-of-state people. That's most of what came for this particular piece. There was cars coming and going. The road itself, the things that happened leading up to Summer's disappearance, were a little crazy for all of us.
This land was only up for sale for a few months. It wasn't up for sale for that long, not even a year, I don't think. I don't see how it would have had the traffic that Dawn Wells and Jody Sue States had with people coming to look at it. I just don't. They're acting like it was a line of people going down Beach Creek and you had to wait to get through the damn traffic because they're all at the bottom of the hill party, harassing people. Every human that came to look at this land, there was a problem. Listen to Jody Sue. We can go back and listen to some of her older videos in between us where she talks about land.
Because had these been average weeks and days, any of us could have told you what ant peed in the road. But it was like a perfect storm was created in a place where perfect storms never happen. Because for the most part, this is a place you don't come into unless you're invited. This is not a place you stop in for a picnic. This is not a place that, this is a place if you don't know it, you don't stop in it, and you don't stop after dark, and you're...
So Jody's telling us to fear this community. That it's such a dangerous place, people don't ever visit. It's that scary. Every human in the area is a horrible human. People know, don't come to Beach Creek. Do not come to Ben Hill. You know what's really funny is Karen Renfro's son, at the beginning of Summer's case, was in Michelle After Dark and many other comments telling people, stay the fuck out of Beach Creek, don't come here. He was on YouTube threatening people. I have to wonder why she is now holding a wrench in Benny's chats.
This is not... Yeah. So, anyway, with very little traffic, any other day we could have told you everybody that had been on that road. But it started with these property sales, and in particular with this property sale for the piece that JD eventually bought and did close on. So, even up until the time that he came, there was still people coming to look, hoping, I guess, that it would not close. And, yeah. Most people that came to look at that piece, laughed like it's, So, during those, weeks, I was given the go-ahead by, property owners and, you're going to hear me mention Voldemort here in that way. Because I'm having trouble using the name because of our particular situation, and there's just something and when I say that, the person I was with and their father. So I was given the go-ahead to try to track down the property lines, which was a little strange considering the things we'd been through with the years and how. Anyway. So I tracked down the property lines. Most of these people, if you know the community, are kin in some form or other. Most have property maps dating back to 1800s. In particular, this family were some of the first settlers to Rogersville and Hawkins and Beach Creek itself. So, the deed that should go with that piece that was for sale that JD bought happened to be the survey map itself that had been done in 77 that goes with the deed that the last one made. Either way, it was in the closet. So, kind of knew where they're at, but I still measured off.
So weird. The year I was born. Good year. Or bad. Who knows?
Had surveyors come out, whole nine. And even in the cancer shape, I mean, like, I went and got it done, right? Found mistakes, made sure everything was lined up. Because there's a point of contention. And we knew that that in itself would present an issue. So, that whoever showed up, that would be a
Whoever showed up, that would be a problem. So it didn't matter whether it was Jackie Dobbs or another person. Whoever showed up, they knew it was going to be a problem. I also want to take you back to Jody Sue said that the family that owned the property gave her permission to show the maps. However, if you listen to Jody Sue's videos from weeks prior, that can't be the case considering Jody and the people that owned the property didn't already get along because the property was being sold. We'll listen to that after this.
problem area for the family that owns that. I did my research, and it. I'll get to that in the next part. However, so at that point, after it's surveyed off, things are done. We just kind of wait for whoever's bought it to show up, and so the next one I will try to get to JD.
Prior to Summer going missing. This is Jody Sue talking about that same property. She's very angry it's being sold, and she had just had a fight with the owners. So I don't understand how the owners of the property could give her permission to be in charge of showing survey maps. I also don't believe that that would ever be a neighbor's role when real estate goes up for sale. That would be something the real estate agent would have to do. I do have questions. This isn't an attack on Jody Sue. It's what we're hearing, and I'm not here for all that. But we'll do this. We'll continue. Since this is where we started.
Okay, guys. So, let me see if I can find a spot. The sun's not on this piece of shit. Maybe. It might work. So, anyway, for those of you who don't know, going through some property shit, yada yada. So Anyway, turns out this piece we thought had been folded back in like it was supposed to be was not. And greedy little ass heirs thinking everybody's forgot what the fuck was supposed to happen. So that's where we're at and whatever.
I don't even have to go any further. We can move on. Greedy ass little motherfucking heirs think that they don't know what's going on and this, that, and the other. So they're family members of Jody and Andy, and the land was supposed to be fooded back in to the family, Jody Sue's family. We can come back to this later. I only needed 2 seconds to show you. Okay. We start right here.
And Voldemort realizes at this point when he comes back down the road after I've been left with JD alone for...
Oh, this is important because Benny commented on this. So let's listen to what happened when Dogs got him.
And Voldemort realizes at this point when he comes back down the road after left with JD alone for a few minutes that his uncle had already talked to JD and found him there on the property not too long before us, cutting and doing whatever, and had told him.
So does Uncle call Andy and say there's a man down on the property cutting property lines? I just had an argument with him. You see, Andy's uncle was also involved in an argument with Dogs. This argument went on far longer than Jody Sue told us. There was a lot more to it, and Dobbs was harassed by a lot more people than just Jody Sue and Andy. Andy's parents even showed up that day. 2 people that never come to that property, according to Jody Sue.
He was on the wrong piece and asked him to move, and I guess JD they all had words. And his uncle left before it upset him, that type of thing, So we come down not long after and found JD there ourselves. So then it set Voldemort off again. And he leaves back and forth a few times, calling his mom.
She came.
Who's one of the ones on the deed with the uncle or whatever. I don't know, property. I don't know. So anyway,
Jody seems upset that the mom and the uncle was on a deed of property they owned before they ever met Jody Sue in her life.
JD is mostly arguing the whole time about how he's not moving, this and that, whatever. I think at one point introduces the dog, which is a big thing with him.
So, to me, it sounds like Jackie Dobbs was being friendly. He introduced us to his dog. Hi, I'm Jackie Dobbs. I just bought the land. This is my dog, Elvis. Nothing weird about loving your dog, Jody Sue. You loved yours. You put yours on a chain and it sat outside all day abused. Right? And then there was the dog that was stolen that Andy took. Like I said, this ain't an attack. It's just, in my opinion, after me listening, strange.
I did notice that when Voldemort was away, JD would treat me entirely differently. There was something that just kind of slid over. It was very strange. And he would talk to me entirely differently than he would with Voldemort there. And there were points where I was just trying to have a conversation with him. I'm like, look, just trying to get him to be calm enough to hear me out. That it kind of struck me a little wrong. There was one point there that I did warn him about our children, and in particular in this community, the houses have mostly been built kind of eons ago.
I did warn him about my children. Don't come up to my window. Now, you know what? When I get a new neighbor, I don't go to their house and say, hey, don't come to my window. I have kids over here. Don't you look over here. Don't you do this. Don't you do that. To me, that's a little rude. Which is why I take Jackie Dobbs' side sometimes. And I don't believe Jackie had anything to do with it as far as this is concerned. However, I would really love to know how Jackie found that land and if he knew Fred prior. Because Fred's stories have also changed. From I seen Jackie that day to I didn't. He and Karen Elliott have been in my chat saying that they seen a man who looked like Scott H. on Jackie Dobbs' land with Jackie Dobb, and he had a hat on. Odd statements. Nobody else seen this man but Karen Elliott and Fred Hill.
People I know online had asked questions about Candace Nims, and it was much larger till right before this. And they'd torn off and were going to rebuild, so that's why it's the size it was. I mean, they were just rebuilding an old piece that had been there, and we're getting there. Anyway, so
there's new construction to this land they're trying to sell. Why? Why would you tear a little piece off of a little piece? Again, 2 major crimes happened on the land Jackie Dobbs bought prior to Jackie Dobbs buying the land. I believe the Dyke boys were involved and they were shot, and it started at one spot on Beach Creek, came to that land. There were people rushed to the hospital. It was a pretty big to-do in the area. Funny Chicken on a Stick says she has all kinds of information about a crime that happened 30 years prior. And now there's construction on this land. And Jody's mad they're selling it. Even the parents are mad. Even Andy's parents and uncle had to come to the house to scold Jackie Dobbs for buying land next to property they owned.
The way it all sits in properties and houses, especially with the 3 or 4 that are right there, and we can kind of see each other. The bedrooms and things face certain ways. That way, especially the children's aren't, and there's no adult bedrooms facing, so. But there's one particular spot that JD's piece would have come up to meet right next to where, like my daughter's bedroom sort of was. And I did.
If you're uncomfortable, Jody, so move your daughter's bedroom. You sleep in that bedroom. It is not up to Jackie Dobbs, who has 2 acres of land. 1 acre is as big as a football field. You have no idea where this guy is going to put his house, his home. He's at the bottom of the land, cutting wires. You don't even know where he's going to sleep on this land, but you're already down there threatening him. Don't come near my daughter's bedroom window. Strange.
I did warn JD that if I caught him because I'm not gonna lie, he struck my stomach a little funny. funny enough for me to tell him that if I caught him in that spot after dusk doing anything other than mowing, I wasn't going to ask twice. And,
Done to him on property he owns.
And I wonder now, all kinds of things. I don't know. But, we did at one point, and after summer went, we knew he was lying to us about certain things. He didn't want to give us his name. The only way we found out his name was at the very end, and after the police were there. There was definitely a mask wearing situation going on with that fella. Because we were backing out in my car, and I thought he was moving by this point.
Don't you think if the landowners wanted you to show the maps, they would have given you the name of the person who was coming to look at the land? Hey, a man named Jackie Dobbs is coming to look at the land. Could you please bring the maps down to him and show him? I don't think, hi Kylie, I don't think that it is in any landowner's description to give the neighbors the name of the person. And after the police came, he gave the name to the police. He didn't hide that from the police, Jody Sue. Again, I owe you my life. I believe you may have saved my life with whatever's going on in this fucking house with the We Can Bring You Home people that live up here in the area and the crazy shit that's been going on in my own family. I do appreciate that, but I do still have questions. You see, much like a cheating man, your stories don't make sense. How could they give you the map to show people when you don't get along with them? How could they give you permission? Wouldn't that be the realtor's job? Because, however, they didn't buy the land from you. They bought it from the previous owner, who happened to be in Andy's family, and the land was supposed to be folded back into the family. And you were upset.
Because he couldn't find a place to park. He asked if he could park across the street and this and the other, and we were like, nope. And
Jody Sue's land had a very huge driveway. I have video of that driveway. There is no need for her to say no to somebody parking on Dawn Wells' land across the street. That is not Jody Sue's job to tell somebody they cannot park on Dawn Wells' land, where the mailbox is, where they just started searching again. Correctly? Is that what we've all been hearing? Where Jody claims all these people were coming to buy drugs and look at the land and park it. She even called Dawn Wells one time to ask if that was his company. Dawn Wells confirms that on one of his interviews and Voices Behind the Wall.
There were some weird things, like I thought it was his health or he was having like breathing problems, but I realized several times that he was sitting on the back of his blue blazer thing, kind of squatted on it, like kind of bent over, and I thought he was having like health or breathing or just where he was older problems, not in shape problems. But then it took a couple times for that to realize that he was kind of throwing a tantrum. It was like and I was like, oh dear. And in between, like Voldemort coming and going, JD, before his point had, like, he would talk to me. Well, he would ask something of me, whatever he wanted to know, whatever he wanted answered, in a pretty direct, rude manner. Like I was supposed to answer like that for him, like on commands. And I was trying to stay pretty quiet. But I would answer whatever it was. But when I asked something of him, he wouldn't respond, or it was very strange. Like some sort of biblical marriage. The guy definitely has some sort of problem with females. I mean, it's just how I feel about it personally. Definitely some issues there. But after all this transpired, found out he had lied about his age, that sort of thing. When we were backing out, at one point we thought he was backing out too, of in between the no trespassing and gonna do whatever, you know. And instead, because he's sitting on the back of the thing, we think, well, he's taking a rest for a second. That was not the case, and I was like, whoa, Voldemort, stop the car for just a second. And I kind of was in the passenger seat, and the window was rolled down on the driver's, and I was like, are you going to move? And he was like, no, I'm not, because this is mine, and I just, whatever, you know. And I was like, look.
So do we just believe Jody Sue based on her words? That this is what happened? Here in the true crime community, I have been demanded to show receipts for many things, which I have shown. Jody does have pictures of dogs and being on the land. Jody Sue did not post those pictures. Andy Bernard's mother did in the Facebook groups.
No, and Voldemort, you know. So I was like, you know what? Go call the cops, because like they've said in the media and things, cell phone signal, that sort of thing down there, right? So Voldemort leaves me there again. I'm keeping an eye on JD, and he goes to call the cops. At this point, JD realizes
I'm keeping an eye on JD. So you're bullying JD. He cut your lines, which should have happened as you moved on and went and called 911 and had the police come out and deal with it.
I mean, it was a swap really quick. And he was like, well, could I do this? And could I park there all of a sudden? And could I? And I'm like, what is happening here? Like, he wanted nothing to do with anything. So then he starts packing up what he does have unpacked, like camping grill, charcoal, the dog, cheap dog food. But the whole back of this thing's filled with stuff. I got pictures that show what all he had in the vehicle that day. And him as well. But his plan was to camp there and squat until, I guess, and he had a picture of like one of the cabins, almost like I had for the cancer treatment, but really small. And inside of this EBD folder, it was basically just a picture of GIS data and then one of the prefab cabin things.
In previous videos, Jody Sue was saying, if you build a house on there, you'll fall right off the land, and da 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 da. How do we know Jackie Dobbs didn't just want that land to come hunt during hunting season? He had a small cabin. That's what she showed him. He showed him. To me, it sounds like Jackie Dobbs was introducing himself, telling Jody and Andy what his plans were. And Andy, Jody, the uncle, Andy's mother, and others came and threatened him to get the fuck off the land, called the cops, thinking that the police would remove him. And guess what? The police did. That's pretty fucking sad, considering Jackie Dobbs just paid cash for land he bought and was then thrown off of by Ellie, which is why sometimes I question Ellie in Summer's case. Because what gave you the right to take a man who bought property and remove them from their own land?
Sheds, whatever. But at that time, he was just planning on like tent and little grill, dog. I don't know. Starting fires and I don't know. It was weird. So,
What's weird about camping land? I'm going to tell you what I think is weird is the KKK fire that you have at the bottom of Andy's land or Thompson's land, right? That Brandon took JLR through. I believe I asked Andy about that a few times. I would like to know what the hell that fire pit is used for. I think that is weird. I don't think camping in the woods is weird on land you own.
He packs all this back up with his cans of gas and whatnot, right? And at least some of it. So then one of the property owners comes, Voldemort's person, and with all the paperwork and things, the cops eventually show up. By this point, JD seems like and he tells us before the cop gets there, we don't have to worry about it. Won't have a neighbor, etc., because Voldemort had offered to buy it and other from him by this point several times.
You, Voldemort, also got mad at Candace for Candace not selling her unicorn. I actually just heard a clip somewhere. Did I clip it again? I gotta find it. We're gonna find that clip. I just heard a clip somewhere where Candace talked about that later. I believe it was on earnings.
Comes to, and at one point JD tries to hand the cop the GIS data too, and even the cop was like, and there's...
Haley, I meant to stop in your live earlier today. I will go rewatch. Sorry I wasn't there. Had some things going on. Always have some things going on. My house is stressful. My daughter-in-law went to a wedding in another state, and my son has the kids. It's a mess.
Giant survey map that is, and the cop basically tells him that these people owned the property for X amount of like 200 years. Pretty sure they know where property lines are, whatever. Which, anyway, so JD's not really interested in giving his name. I don't think anybody ever really even asks for it. Then all of a sudden he told us like he had offered the information. He was some sort of vet in, I think, Germany at the time, which didn't really add up with the age he gave us.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Fox. I'll be right back.
And then, but he never says that to the cop or anything, and that's usually kind of the first thing. I mean, it's kind of a thing, right? That's usually the first thing. I'm a vet, right? It's one of those things we all know. But I noticed he never mentioned that. And it was a little strange. Cop gets there. JD kind of wanders off to himself mostly and really starts packing everything the rest of the way up. Then it seems like, I don't know, he's going to find somewhere else, whatever. Then all of a sudden his personality becomes kind of sweet as pie, and he mentions, something about the wife, and I heard it like the wife stabbed me or wanted to, I don't know. It was a little bizarre. I was standing a little ways off at that point talking to the pseudo mother-in-law person, and so at this point JD had even mentioned for him he was selling, etc. But then Voldemort asks him, he's like, hey bud, can I get the number or whatever before you take off? And the mask sort of slips. JD's back's turned at that point to everybody, and JD just kind of screams out in this angry tone, why do you need that? Even the cop stopped and was like, you just told him you were selling. I mean, like, how's he supposed to get in contact with you? Voldemort sort of says the same thing at the same time. Then that's how JD's name sort of learned, the first anyway. The rest was in the file and accidentally caught by eyesight. The numbers given and exchanged. He makes a big deal of not having anywhere to go. Asks for hotel recommendations that would take a dog. We all tell him, including the officer. And then at one point, he had heard, and this was, sorry, it's a little scattered, but at one point there, right before, somewhere between him and the GIS data and then the survey thing, it seemed like I was like, well, civil court. And when JD heard that, he got a little excited, like, oh, well, so I can squat here and tell, basically. But then I was like, but he got through lights and things to get in there, and the officer was like, oh no, you can't do it. I'm going to need you to come on back out of there. So at this point, JD knew he had to leave, because, parking somewhere's one thing, cutting through stuff to get to it is another. So, anyway, hold on. So by the end, JD's pretty acquiescing, asking about hotel recommendations, sweet as pie again. Pseudo mother-in-law backs out to kind of let him out, asking about hotel recommendations.
I'm still making coffee. I had to work my coffee pot open. We have to boil water and a steep and have one filled through. I need to get a new coffee pot. So it takes me a minute. Put an eyeshadow makes it like 2 hours. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm ready to go wake it off. Here she's talking about what Demi and Tiffany spoke about today, which was them going to the hotels to find dogs. Like I said, these are not in order. We're just going to go through them.
So by the end, JD's pretty acquiescing, asking about hotel recommendations, sweet as pie again. Pseudo mother-in-law backs out to kind of let him out, and the officer's still sitting there with us, and JD almost rips off the entire exhaust system trying to get out of there and out of the. There are two driveways. Where JD was parked is considered the old driveway for this property. It's the original driveway, and it kind of curves and goes up. But there's also a straight driveway, and it is newer, and worse. This is, as most people tell you, even four-wheel drives have a problem getting up this thing. So, when he backs out of the curvy one and the straight one, the concrete for the roadway comes down. And, he's in such a hurry, he almost rips off the exhaust, but he leaves. But JD struck us all so wrong that later that night, we went looking at all the hotels we had recommended. All the way out to Baylor. But JD struck us all so wrong that later that night, we went looking at all the hotels we had recommended. All the way out to Bayleton and Greenville.
Bayleton and Greenville is where they recommend hotels that they went searching for JD. I would like to know who is we. Was it just you and Andy? Was it you, Andy, Uncle John? Was it you, Andy, Uncle John, Andy Sr.? Was it you, Andy, Uncle John, Andy Sr., and pseudo mother-in-law? Was it Don Wells? Jackie Dobbs states that he's seen Don Wells earlier that day. who all went. Let's also keep in mind this is the same day Dawn Wells claims that CYF came, DHS, whatever they call it, because the boys had pew-pews. Was it the boys that had pew-pews, or was there a bigger problem at the bottom of the Wells driveway, right across the street from Jackie Dobbs Lane?
Seeing if we could see his vehicle to make sure he was where he was supposed to be, and then he wasn't at any of those places. So as we're coming back through for Beech Creek and back to this property, we check every hollow.
In my opinion, Haley, I think that Andy's parents need to be looked into, especially the father. I have my own reasons for that. I've spoken about it in the past. It would sound even more strange if I told you my reasons, and it would get people to say I'm a liar and this, that, and the other, and people to say bad things about, fuck it, I'm just going to say it. When my daughter was about 8 or 9 years old, there was her and a group of friends that used to go on a website called Omega. I caught a man that looks much like Andy Bernard's father asking my daughter to undress on her tablet. I then turned that tablet over to law enforcement. And for some reason today, they can't find the fucking tablet. Nobody's ever returned it. However, in my opinion, the man looked like he could be Andy Bernard's twin. Not Andy the son, Andy the father. That bothers me. I'll never forget the big fat belly and the moles all over his face and the ugly fucking mullet. And if I do ever find out that it was that man on the other side of the website with my daughter, which I will call the police with you guys to check on it so you can see what I'm stating is true, I promise you, Mr. Bernard, you will no longer be breathing. Could it be because I have family down there and my black daughter was hard? I don't know.
In every place we know of, people to be able to park and squat and do whatever. He's nowhere. Which, trust me, is a few places down through there. Never could find him. So we just let it go. We go on back. And that's kind of the topic. And what's on our minds for at least a few hours. Until, right?
I think Fred said that.
And
I'm pretty sure it was Fred that said that, Haley.
it's a big topic of discussion for everybody in Beech Creek and what's happening with that. And I honestly think I had done a video or two that day, that evening. I don't recall if they're open or not. But if they are, they're there, and they're just hours before Summer goes missing. So anyway, that was at least most of the interaction with JD. The guy was a little off.
I want to take a break. There's a reason why. I've been on an hour. I really love my library. It's been a very long time since I've been to the library. I took my grandchildren out there last week and I ordered some books. I asked them some books I can read. Do you guys remember Moselle, the handwriting specialist that gave herself a name for anthology? One of the librarians at the Carnegie Library in Pittsburgh was amazing. They ordered me 3 books. I only read 2 pages of Measures of Madness inside the disturbed and disturbing criminal mind. Cheryl Paradis wrote this, foreword by Catherine Raymond. A forensic psychologist reveals the dark and troubling human mind. Fascinating. Robert K. Tenenbaum, New York Times best-selling author. I'm going to take, out of all my lives, a few pages to read every night till we finish this book. Because Moselle, Chris McDonough's buddy, for some reason thinks that she created what she does in life. Not true. There's many others, and they write books. Forward by Catherine Ramsey. Andrea Yates drowned her 5 children one morning before she called 911 and turned herself in. Despite a long and complex history of hallucinations, delusions, and suicidal depression, in the courtroom months later, she seemed composed. A videotaped interview revealed that just after the quintuple homicide, she'd respond to questions without noticeable emotion, explaining why her children had to die. She looked exhausted, and her words were forced, but she appeared oblivious to the enormity of what she had done. People around the world were stunned that anyone, even a killer, could be so seemingly blasé. Serious mental illness can be camouflaged. Sufferers might dress well, respond to questions, and have considered rationale for murders, rapes, assaults, arsons, or thefts they have perpetrated. By the time they reach trial, they may seem even more normal because medication has restored their clarity. Thus, it can be difficult for ordinary people to accept psychology evaluations of offenders that excuse them. The media shows us that the psychotic are wild-eyed, slovenly, jabbering, and deranged. And sometimes they are, but not always. People with little background in psychology can be quite surprised by the diverse manifestations of serious mental illness. I want to give a little bit of commentary about what I'm reading here. I have mental illness. I have what they call CPTSD. I have anxiety, and I have depression. It is managed with Zoloft, the generic form Straterline. I can tell a difference when I take medication. If you have an undiagnosed criminal, they could be capable of doing anything. Let's just keep that in mind. Medications are important in the mental health world. I don't think that I could function without them. That's the honest to God's truth. And that's because I've suffered years of trauma in my life. I have had therapy since I was about 10 or 11 years old. My mother used to use the mental institution as a way to get rid of me when I was a child. My first hospitalization, I was 12. I was touched by a man in that hospital that friended me because I was thrown into a mental institution with adult men, in McKeesport Hospital here in Pittsburgh. And that's because my mother wanted to get SSI from me when I was a child, because that's the kind of human she was. I was bad. But it wasn't because I had ADHD or anything like that. It was because I was abused at home. I acted out what I was taught. Let me finish. Therefore, an important task for a forensic psychologist offering expert testimony is to educate. But how do you persuade members of the TV viewing public who sit on a jury that a composed, articulate person was too delusional during the commission of a crime to be criminally responsible? This is one reason why the insanity defense is rarely used. Many jurors are suspicious of professionals who try to diminish and I don't know this word heinousness. Oh, heinousness. Heinousness. I'm not that great. I quit school in 8th grade. I apologize. I think I do pretty good. Heinous of an offender's harm to others. In addition, some are so attuned to the media's stereotypes that their preconceptions deflect what a psychologist says. But there's another factor as well, which is often ignored. Mental health professionals must also deal with inaccurate stereotypes about their own role. While a great deal of attention has been devoted to how the CSI effect has influenced the way lay people understand forensic science, we've heard little mention of its impact on the perception of forensic psychology. Mental health professionals have shown up as characters on television shows such as Law and Order, CSI, Bones, and Criminal Minds. As a result, lay people develop erroneous ideas. Whenever I say forensic psychology to non-professionals, I hear a range of impressions. Some people believe that forensic psychologists are investigators, or that they deal primarily with serial killers. Others recall images of out-of-touch academics whom clever criminals can easily dupe, of greedy entrepreneurs promoting their own theories, or of hired guns, saying whether an attorney needs them to say to win a case. Only a few programs show how such professionals actually work. So they're telling you that TV is not a way to get your information. You gotta read. You gotta research. You gotta make sure who you're watching is extremely professional and has no woes in their profession. I find it funny that Penny went to Moselle to do forensology, as she says it. Then she claimed that like she was the only one in the profession, in my opinion. That's not true. We'll finish this page and my next slide will continue. Let me find my place. Okay. Forensic psychology is an application of psychological concepts, practice and research to legal and investigative arena. While this covers a range of activities, the two most common for clinical psychologists are the assessment of competency to stand trial and the assessment of a defendant's mental state at the time of the offense, the MSO. Most people have heard of the latter, so let's focus on it for a moment. I'll continue a couple pages tomorrow. I have this book for 3 weeks. We have to finish it by then. But I think it's important that we get a perspective from others, not just those that have been out here in Summer's case. And I think that educating ourselves is a good thing to do, especially when we're covering and following these cases and don't have a degree. I didn't see you sneak in, Andy. If you would like a link, you can have one. Let me know that you just said you're at work.
the only vehicle I saw parked there that day was the blue Trailblazer, older. The next day, as y'all seen and heard, things started changing, which we first took to be rumor, and I still, there are questions about things, even for we who were up close and personal with these situations and had visual on all of this for the duration. But all of these things, like I said, definitely came together to create this perfect storm that even 2.5 weeks before, well, because by this point, I just want to let you know the tree cutters were there. JD was having property, people still showing up. That even happened quite a bit even after JD left. Because after that, we've not seen JD again. At least I've not. And I mean, that was just like 13 days ago that I was there. So, I do know that we spoke to JD. Voldemort did. The kids have, I believe that, and the lawyer he contacted, the conversation with that between Voldemort and JD's lawyer here, videotaped. So I don't know. I know that on JD's Facebook, he said he was here the next day. Something about biscuits and gravy or beer. I don't, and a dog, and that was it, kind of. But I think the lawyer wasn't talked to until like 2 days after Summer went missing, is the impression the lawyer gave on this video. So I'm not really sure how long JD was in town after the Ben Hill incident. I mean, David Sherrills, that's, and most of me agrees. I don't think he's pretty low on my list. That's all I'm saying. I think he has his own separate issues. I think he's a little off. Definitely has maybe problems with women of some variety. Some anger issues of his own. I'm not real sure. Could have just been a situation. Could have been all kinds of things. But me personally, he's low on my list. So I don't know. I'm not a cop. I'm not a detective. I'm not the feds. They know what they know, and I just experienced what I experienced. So those are two entirely different things. It's their job to put these pieces together. Anyway, yeah. But JD did make it seem like, I don't know, this, when we first came in there, it was this over-exaggeration. He did lie about his age, made himself older than he actually was by quite a bit. Kept mentioning how he was having problems moving and falling, but then I didn't really see that. I saw an exaggeration of that at certain points, so it was a little weird for me. I don't know. Whole thing struck me as weird. But JD had been in there for obviously quite a while, stalling, doing whatever. Did tell us that at one point he had actually, because I think Voldemort had asked him if he'd even walk the property at first. He's like, no, and he was like, well, yeah, I came with a friend. But then it coincided with another name that had just shown up like a day or two before in conjunction with sale online. And I was like, it struck me as like, did he just use that second person's name stuck out as a realtor? Like, did he lie about that too? Like, so who knows if he actually had walked the property? Because I'll tell you, there was a lot of days there, and I don't know how they would get past the dogs things, but they did. I still have no idea. They took pictures of our property without our dogs in them, but they did. They must carry bit. I don't know, but the point is, I highly doubt it. Honestly, I think it was just another lie. But that's just my opinion. It was a very strange thing. But for me, he's probably one of the lowest on my list. That's how I feel about it. And he's not wrong. And I really do enjoy his Ben Hill Hill.
However, it was Paulie Bernard who was accusing dogs of taking someone into Facebook groups, not Jody Sue. Jody Sue was actually extremely upset that those pictures had been put up by Paulie, if I remember correctly. Okay. So we watched. I'm going to put this one up.
Okay, so,
for the next live, or maybe I'll come back to it. But I just told you guys in my chat, I have something very important that I don't want to forget before I get off of here. I have a video I made. I posted this video November 4th of 2024. I would like you to watch this video because this is something that happened in the area Summer Wells went missing. Not even a month after Summer Wells went missing. And it disputes Ronnie Lawson's claim of we don't have a drug problem in the area. I would say after you see this, everybody on the earth should dispute what Ronnie Lawson says about the drug activity in the area of Hawkins County. It won't be me, but maybe somebody should research these names. I mean, since we're talking Knoxville. Right, Siggy?
Three people were arrested in Hawkins County after officials found suspected drugs during a traffic stop. The sheriff's office says they identified the car from a tip that there would be a delivery of a large number of narcotics by a car with a Georgia registration. Deputies say they found multicolored forms of heroin, fentanyl, pills believed to be ecstasy, and a Glock pistol. The three suspects were identified as Matthew Cabbage, Misty Rouse, and Timothy Burke. All three are facing several charges.
According to a report by 6 News on Your Side dated July 8, 2021, a routine traffic stop on a Wednesday in Hawkins County, Tennessee, led to the arrest of 3 individuals and the seizure of over $100,000 worth of illegal narcotics. The Hawkins County Sheriff's Office confirmed that the detained individuals included Matthew Cabbage, also known as TJ Misty Rolls, and Timothy Burke, known as Tim. The traffic stop targeted a silver 2012 Nissan Versa with Georgia license plates, following a tip about a significant narcotics delivery. TJ was identified as the front passenger, and the vehicle was intercepted on Timberline Drive, where all occupants were detained. The search of the vehicle revealed 1,131 grams of a crystalline substance, suspected to be methamphetamine, 52 grams of a gray, rock-like substance, believed to be gray death fentanyl, 39 grams of a pink rock-like substance, presumed to be pink heroin, 720 multicolored pills, thought to be ecstasy, 3 grams of a brown rock-like substance, suspected to be brown heroin, a loaded Glock 19 Generation 5, 9mm, located in a suitcase in the trunk. The narcotics have an estimated total street value of approximately $115,300, broken down as follows. Methamphetamine $90,500. Heroin $18,800. Ecstasy $6,000. Further investigation revealed that all three suspects were convicted felons with past offenses related to drugs and theft. Despite having active warrants from Florida and Ohio, the suspects will not be extradited from Tennessee. Following the arrest, all suspects were transported to the sheriff's office where they were read their Miranda rights and provided written statements. The charges filed include Matthew T.J. Cubbage and Misty Rolls' possession of methamphetamine, heroin, and ecstasy with intent to deliver, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Timothy Tim Burke, possession of methamphetamine, heroin, and ecstasy with intent to deliver, possession of drug paraphernalia, and driving while in possession of methamphetamine.
Could this be why Summer Rose is missing? Could it be why there's a drug problem in Hawkins County? Have I ever researched these names? No. Do I intend to? Maybe. Will I bring it to YouTube? I don't know. I think of those like Fred that lived in the area and sold the rugs that were coming into the area. Right, Fred? Where do you get said rugs, Fred? We hear you recently telling Sherry the amount, I ain't gonna lie, the amount of rug activity I had. I guess that's why the police were looking at me. I believe that's what you said. Where did you get said rugs, Fred? Andy, where did you get the big bags of meth that Jody Sue was finding and saying you were hiding in the bay at work? Andy, would your boss lie for you? Because Jody Sue claims that he would. Do we know who took Summer? No. But do we see a lot of different things going on in the area at the time of Summer's disappearance, such as the death of Earl Taylor, a relative to Marlene, first cousin, to be exact. Also the father of Celesta's children, who is now with Ricky Crawford and also has children to him. There was a love triangle. The girl still fucked all of them as far as I could see, in my opinion. I was told by somebody very close to Earl Taylor that Celesta was with Earl Taylor the night before he passed away. Celesta lives in Summer Wells community with Ricky Crawford at the time. Dawn Wells tells me around the time Ricky Crawford was up on the hill cutting trees. We hear Jeremy Pell tell a story of Dawn Wells cutting down the trail down by the shed prior to Summer going missing. These are things we cannot stop looking at, in my opinion. Fred, I would like to know where you purchased your rugs to sell to other people. I would like to know a quantity of rugs you bought. I would like to know exactly how much traffic daily came to your home. I think you need to tell a list to the police of people who came to your home to get rugs. We know Chad Arnold is a user. Was he there that day buying rugs from you? I think these are reasonable questions. I would also, still to this day, like to know why Ellie and Julie's roles have switched. Ziggy denied that in Benny's chat. I promise you in upcoming episodes on my channel, I'm going to prove Ziggy the fuck wrong. Lots of people are done with lies. I don't know what Benny and Tiffany got going on and why they're being so chummy with you. I know neither of them are as fucking stupid as they're making themselves look at this moment. That's not an attack. I hope you have a bigger plan. Because this shit is nonsense. You really need to get to the bottom of why Kathy Gordon, somebody involved in wiretapping her family, in hotels where there were human trafficking going on prior years, happened. Andy, I would really, really, really love for you to come up on my panel tomorrow when I come back and play some more Jody Sue. Because I'm going to end this trying to keep my live short. I don't need to be on here a million hours to show you what it is I have to show. All I need is for you people to catch on and start looking in other ways. Attacking Jody Sue after all these years and no arrests to her is not going to get Summer Wells found. Finding out why creators have stolen money from Summer's case may. Finding out why 5 lawsuits placed against me when I don't do nearly as much as Benny does when it comes to the threatening. Right? Share? Never made sense. I think it's time we get to the fucking bottom of it. Renfro, every time I ask you a question, you run. I'm done. Have your son threaten another motherfucker. It won't be me. Let me know when you're available. I'd really, really, really love to hear about the Dykes shooting that started at the other end of Beach Creek. With that said, peace and love. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.